Hello, YouTube. Welcome to my channel, Marriage, Politics, and Sports. Well, this could fall under the politics and relationship and trial and criminal type activity. We're going to talk about the Diddy trial. Some breaking news. Now, the prosecutors are dropping. You can look at this: the kidnapping, arson, certain sex trafficking charges. There's probably a bevy of other things. Even they're questioning him blowing up the car. And what I'm saying is, listen, I've been on plenty of panels, and I'm saying with all the salacious shit that they were talking about with the sex parties, I was saying, well, where's the crime? Where's the crime? They got this guy, they want to put him away for life. And all they did was parade person after person of people who were sexually deviant to try to become famous, right? And this guy is just a demon asking these guys to sign their souls away, and they did for fame. And so I'm saying, where's the crime at? So now the prosecutors putting person up after person, wasting taxpayers' money because they can't really make a big RICO link if he's the only. Where's the racketeering where nobody else is being charged but him? So let's hear what these guys have to say. Now, he's not going to walk. He's not going to walk. But the fact that, they had this smoking gun trial, and all of a sudden now we see them backtracking on almost everything. I mean, you know what I'm saying? What's going on here? All right, so let's listen to these guys and see what they have to say. And let's hear.
Celebrity Dish News. Prosecutors have dropped some charges against Diddy. Joining us now is TMZ executive producer Harvey Levin with the latest late-breaking details. I mean, Harvey, I can't get through your story here fast enough. What's the latest?
Okay, it's a little bit confusing, Marissa, but let me explain. The prosecution sent a letter to the judge saying the judge had asked prosecutors and defense to streamline the proposed jury instructions. The prosecution is saying, okay, so let's eliminate attempted kidnapping, attempted arson, and aiding and abetting sex trafficking. So now the question, what does that mean? We know the arson relates to Diddy allegedly blowing up Kid Cudi's car in a fit of jealousy, the fact that Kid Cudi had dated Cassie. So it would seem that they're saying we're just not going to pursue that when it comes to giving the jury instructions because the jury never directly tied Diddy to the actual arson.
No. The prosecutors never tied Diddy to the direct arson. And another thing about Cassie, if we didn't see him beat her in that hallway on video, we wouldn't have, that visual evidence of how bad he was to her. But it would have just been about her, whether she consented to all those sexual activities, which for the most part, if I was on a jury, I would say, yes, she did. Now, I would concede that it probably got a bit much for her at some point. But if we didn't see her get beat down, then her testimony would not have been that powerful, if it was at all. I mean, matter of fact, it seems like the prosecutors are saying we might not be able to convict him just on her testimony because now they're trying to move away from some of these things. Now, I think for right now, all the people on the outside, all we saw was paraded consenting adult after consenting adult who did a whole bunch of freaky, nefarious things.
Of the car. Now, they do mention the word attempted, so I suppose you can make the argument that they're going to not say he attempted it, he actually did it. But that doesn't make sense because all they said in the testimony was that they believe he did it. Mm-hmm. And it went on fire, so it was done. So it seems like they're eliminating that. And similarly, when it comes to kidnapping, you may remember that there was testimony by Capricorn Clark, Diddy's assistant, saying that Diddy suspected her of stealing jewelry. They took her, put her in a warehouse, and gave her lie detector tests, and putting her in that warehouse was kidnapping. It seems they're not going to pursue that. And there was a second one involving this alleged victim, Jane. So it seems they're taking certain things off the table, but I got to be honest with you, the letter's a little bit confusing, but it definitely seems the prosecution is pulling back on what they are going to argue to the jury in closing.
All right, so maybe I didn't see this, so we're both watching this live. What's still on the table? What actually is still on the table? Now, they said they found some guns with serial numbers filed off. That's certainly a crime. They said that he falsified some names to get some drugs. That's surely a crime. But they can't prove that he forced anybody to take them. But the first part is a crime, right? Getting drugs with an illegal name. There's some kind of trial. It's probably a goddamn misdemeanor. It's certainly not something you throw somebody in jail for a whole lifetime. So, you know what, man?
Argument.
Absolutely. And when it comes to the aiding and abetting with the sex trafficking, that charge is still there, but they're pulling back on even some of those details.
And my guess is what they're pulling back on are things like Diddy's assistant booking a hotel room. I mean, how is, that's booking a hotel room. Travago is not sex trafficking. and, just booking a hotel room is not really evidence of sex trafficking. So I'm guessing it's things like that they might be pulling back on.
It definitely appears as if the prosecution have found some weak spots in their case, potentially, and that's why they're giving the jury those instructions, before making their closing arguments. Thank you so much, Harvey. I know this was breaking news that you all have provided us.
Yeah, but see, now, you know what? I didn't search out, more different, things on this one. Maybe there was some more deeper conversation, because what's left on the table, because that's what we really need to know now. Okay, they took some stuff off the table. So what exactly is still on the table? Maybe maybe I'll try to go find them while I'm still alive, take a minute and go look. Maybe I'll try to potluck it. But this one is over. What else is on the table? What else is on the table? It'd be nice to find that out, right? We'll see. Let me go ahead and maybe I'll search for some. Give me this. Let me search a little bit for some more Diddy stuff. Okay, maybe there's something I can find that's a little bit more deep. What's left? Some charges job. All right, so this is a live feed. I don't know if I want to do a live feed, but all right, let me put this up.
Procedural thing. These are some of the biggest charges they have dropped, the violent charges, the ones that showed how deep and dark this whole case really was, and they just vanished. You guys, this is an emergency. Diddy's team will help us believe that we believe that the case is falling apart. And by the government dropping charges against Diddy left and right. Again, this is not a drill. We need to talk about what it means. Okay, so let's start from the top. Attempted kidnapping, gone. Attempted arson, gone. Aiding and abetting sex trafficking, gone. Now, you guys, I keep it real with you. I'm going to go live in about 40 minutes, but I want to drop this video first. Now, before we spiral all the way down into despair, I'm going to break this down for you, okay? Because while this looks like the government is folding, it might be something else. Now, what they dropped are state-level charges, the same state-level charges that Diddy's team had argued against, charges that were based on California and New York laws. That's important because this is a federal trial. And keeping it federal might actually be the strongest and best legal strategy that the feds think they have to keep Diddy hidden away and squirreled away in jail for a long time.
That sounds like a lot of wishful thinking on this lady's part because a lot of those federal charges are based on everything he did at the state level. What are you talking about? If you say that he had people, he put them in the plane and they flew from here to there, that's sex trafficking, then every person who took a leisurely flight with a girlfriend is a sex trafficker. Or a bunch of people going from state to state doing freak offs, and they consented to do that. I mean, you're stretching. You know what I'm saying? So I remember at one point they said he was trafficking little children, and for some reason that's no longer even on the table, right? I mean, I heard that when he got arrested. Now I don't think that. I think the guy's a bad guy. I think he's a demon. But just putting them away because people don't like him is not the law in this United States. He's got to commit a crime. And this whole trial so far, I'm still trying to figure out which crime are they. Maybe this lady knows that what crimes are still on the table, and she doesn't because she's saying, well, maybe it's the federal level. So she's guessing just like everybody else.
Okay. Again, like I said, you guys, this is big. It's huge. And honestly, a lot of people weren't ready for it. I wasn't ready for it. The prosecution, let's call a spade a spade. The prosecution just made a move that has victims stunned. And legal analysis are asking what is going on. Again, multiple charges against Sean Diddy Combs have officially been dropped. Not dismissed by the court, not ruled on by a jury, but dropped by the government itself. Voluntarily, in the middle of the case. This isn't gossip. This is confirmed. This is public record that I'll go on live later to talk about. And I'm already asking the same questions you are. Does this mean the case is collapsing? Is Diddy about to walk?
No, he's not going to. You know what? Yes. See, it's somewhere between what you said in the beginning about the federal having something even bigger or him walking. He's not going to walk. But they're not going to convict him on anything that they say he needs to do life for, unless they just say, I'm going to give him the max because he's Diddy and we can't get him on anything else. In which case, he can, I think, do the 8th Amendment or his 5th Amendment. One of them says that's cruel and unusual based on the charges he actually gets convicted for. If they might do that thing, or he's got a misdemeanor, but we're going to give him 40 years. Some bullshit like that. I'm just saying, and once they started parading sexual deviant after sexual deviant out to try to put him in jail, I said, this is not a good case. This is not a good case because they're trying to impact the jury on his salaciousness and then somehow try to tie those to crimes. And it just didn't seem to work.
I know you're seeing the panic and you have every right to feel it, but don't worry because I got you. Because while this move looks shocking on the surface, my sources are saying, and legal sources, not my neighbor, even though I do talk to my neighbor, my neighbor, it may actually be more strategic than you think. And there's more going on here than what's being tweeted. Okay? In this video, I'm going to break down exactly which charges were dropped, why the government have made this decision, what this means for the remaining charges, and whether Diddy could still face serious consequences. Because yes, the possibility of conviction is still much on the table, and it actually even is a possibility that they did this because they think that New York State and California State are going to pick up those charges. You guys, if you care about justice, if you care about survivors, and if you care about this case not being swept under the rug, stay with me, because what just happened in the courtroom could shape the outcome, will shape the outcome of this entire trial. Let's get into this. Okay, let's get into exactly what was dropped and why that decision is way more complicated than it looks. As of June 24th, the federal prosecutors confirmed that they are no longer pursuing the following charges against Diddy: attempted kidnapping under both California and New York law, attempted arson under California law, and aiding and abetting sex trafficking. Those were serious, violent allegations. These weren't PR crimes he was being accused of. These are the charges that pointed to violence, manipulation, and calculated harm. And now they're off the table, completely removed from the jury consideration. Now, why did the government drop these? Here's what you need to understand. And this is where the government's playbook starts to show. One, the
Well, we're going to get back to what she's saying. Let me just kind of address this. Remember, most of these states, right, have changed their laws to where they've almost eliminated the statute of limitations on these kind of sex crimes. Especially, remember in New York State, where they opened up a window and said, we can go back 150,000 years and said a man grabbed a lady's ass at some point and now he should go to jail for it or lose $100 million. Those kind of things that happen all across the country. So I'm not so sure how the veracity of these statute of limitations, unless you have proof that he said this particular crime is no longer chargeable, or why would they have brought them in the first place if they're beyond the statutes? So you know what? I'm just saying. Now listen, make no mistake. Diddy is a demon. I'm talking about a real demon, and even that isn't a crime, right? He looks at people and he says, well, what do you want out of life? And he says, sign here on the dotted line. And if you do these things, I'll get it for you. And so many people sign their souls away to this fucking guy. And then coming back afterwards saying, we need to put him in jail for it. That's not how that shit works. We've all seen these movies where people sign on a dotted line with a demon or the devil. And the bargain is never in your favor. Never. Never. And this is a real life situation about that. That's why, that's why he should do something. But, you can't just trump up charges and shit and try to make them stick. And just by showing sex, I mean, this whole trial has been but one sexual deviation after another. And I still didn't see the crime. And I think there was a mistake there. So let's see if this lady has some better insight.
charges were based on state law, not federal. That means that they would have introduced different legal definitions, different jury instructions, and standards from California and New York, all inside a federal courtroom. That was messy. The feds decided that was too risky. It gives the defense room to confuse the jury or call a mistrial. 2, the defense just filed a Rule 29 motion, which basically says, Judge, there's not enough evidence to even let the jury decide this. So the prosecutors
let's stop at the Rule 29. She'll get into the details, right? Again, what she just said about, this shit being messy, she's damn right. So that tells me that the prosecution at the federal level, they didn't know, throwing all this shit on the table at the state level, trying to get a federal conviction might be messy. They didn't know that in the beginning. What kind of lawyers are these? They just threw a whole bunch of shit at the jury, and now they're saying, God, if I had to put this together and I'm a juror, I'm going to say, God, man, you know what? Okay, Cassie, if I didn't see her get her ass beat, all I would have thought was that she was, involved in all the sex activity and she just got mad after the money stopped coming in, right? That visual of her getting beat is the thing that made her testimony so important, but he's not on trial for that. He's not on trial for for beating her up. I mean, these are the kind of things that good lawyers would have known before they even started the trial. So okay, let's talk about this Rule 29.
Rather than get slapped down by the court and embarrassed publicly or confuse the jury enough to let Diddy walk because nobody understood what was going on, they dropped the weak link themselves. They cut off the arm to save the whole body. It's a legal retreat for sure, but one that protects the rest of the case from collapsing under crossfire. And 3, they may be repackaging those same facts, the threats, the control. Oh my God, you guys come and sit down and shut the door. How far the government is willing to go. They've already scaled back. They've already that the powerful have created to use to survive accountability. The moment the government starts dropping serious charges mid-trial, the public starts to lose confidence. People are rightly asking, is this really about the law, or is it about how
Yes,
much
that's
money
Lisa.
you
I'm
have to
sorry, I
fight
messed it
and
up. Yeah,
conceal
that's her.
evidence? And if this were anyone else, would the charges still be standing? And you know what? Those are fair questions. This is a new celebrity trial playbook. We've seen this pattern before. The public shot, the strategic ethics trial, confusing legal language, and a conviction, it's now a maybe. And then appeals, reductions, reversals, and deals. By the time sentencing comes around, these headlines have cooled, the pressure is gone, and punishment gets softer. That's how public memory works. That's how power stretches this to its advantage. Okay? It's crazy that they dropped the most attempted, the most serious charges. And this is a playbook that that the rich and powerful, ever since Tony M. effing Busby got involved, this has been allowed to happen. We'll talk about that later. I know you don't see the connection, but I do.
Okay, what charges are still on the table? I don't think she said it. Which charges are still on the table? I'm not sure. Maybe she's not either.
And this is why I was so mad at Busby and lost faith in him. Because what his antics did, what his cases did, was muddy the water so much that we're left here. But we'll talk about that later. Let's just get into the convicted. If he's convicted, he could still walk light. Let's just say Diddy is convicted. But then what? The sentencing is its own game. Prosecutors recommend years, and the defense argues months. And suddenly, probation's on the table. And then come the appeals. The defense will say they dropped charges for a reason. The jury was confused. The evidence was circumstantial. And this wasn't forced, it was consensual. And in that moment, when the headlines are gone and the courtroom is quiet, that's when victims may lose everything. They risk everything to say. So what do we do with this? We stay loud, you guys. We stay focused. We stop assuming that the first conviction is the final word, because the justice system isn't designed to protect the public from powerful people, not without pressure. And every sleazebag millionaire, every one of them, every sleazebag billionaire is using this ploy. And this is where we tighten down. This is a test, not just for the court, but for all of us. I'm going to keep covering every twist, every motion, every appeal attempt until this story is done. Because victims and the public, we deserve more than procedural wins. We deserve.
This girl, she's pretty good though, man. She's got her feelings in this thing for sure. Oh my goodness.
Full accountability. And if the system won't deliver it quietly, we'll keep raising the volume. Because let's be clear, and I stand by this. The prosecution have signaled that they really only clear about Diddy being convicted on one of the major charges and are afraid that the jury will find a way to only convict on the lesser state charges and acquit him on major charges. I guess the prosecution thinks taking away the lesser charges option is a way to ensure conviction. Again, I can haggle on whether I think that's a good strategy. I'll do that over live and talk about it.
That is a good strategy. It could be. Because if he gets acquitted on even the state charges and they acquit him on the federal charges, there ain't no going back. You know, there's a double jeopardy rules will apply. So that's not a bad thought she has in her head.
Because don't forget, that's how the Young Thug trial fell apart. However, they deserve full accountability. And that we want to make sure that the public outrage stays up and loud, even through conviction, because the sentencing is what matters. This is a test, like I said, not just for the court, but for all of us. I will see you on my next live legal breakdown. We will be in court today. The jury won't be there, but we will be there listening to the defense and the
Oh man.
Hey everyone, I'm Ashley Bailey.
All right. So listen, I mean, that we'll end that there. She really has it in for my man Diddy, and that's cool. That is really good. Anyway, hey, listen, what's that? Drobo Not. Hey, thanks for stopping by. I mean, this is crazy. I just saw this. So I said, let me just go live and say, shoot the breeze, man. I just had a lot of problems with this Diddy trial in terms of them not just getting to the actual smoking gun. It's kind of the way they lost the O.J. Simpson's trial. Everybody knows he did it, but they had to throw so much shit in there that they could, they gave the jury an out, because a lot of this stuff is you got to convict beyond reasonable doubt. And the more shit you throw out there, the more doubt you introduce, And but anyway, so listen, it's not over, and for sure, like I said, no matter what, Diddy's guilty of being a bad human being at the very least. To me, he's a demon. But like I said, even being a demon, it's not against our laws. It's not on the books. Anyway, so we kind of know where he's going to go after they call him home. It'll probably be going down. The elevator's probably going to go down. But, that's not for us to say. Anyway, our pain over and out. Thanks for stopping by.